Hi friends, host Eric here, host talking about famous people. I'm making another car video. You might say, Eric, your car videos are kind of boring. You kind of go on, and I don't know. It's not the engagement you have with other people in the car. It's just not that special. Well, I feel ya, dog. But at the same time, the thing is, I have this long drive, so what the hell else am I going to do, you know? Especially today, given the fact that I came here, even though work was canceled today, because I'm an idiot. I didn't check my email the last 2 days, so I was caught up in making songs, and that's what happens if you don't check your email. You don't find out that work got canceled today. So, anyhow, I drove all the way down here, and now I gotta drive all the way back. But the good news is, I did get paid today, so it wasn't a complete wash coming down here. Regardless, that's not what this video is about, and that's probably why these videos suck ass if they do, which they're not that great. Anyway, but I'll try to make this one better. I got a topic for this one that's a little bit more specific. It's a topic that I haven't visited in a long time, frankly, which is ENTP stuff. What does it mean to be an ENTP, and what are some of the challenges or advantages or whatever, like that kind of shit that I used to talk about all the time. I stopped talking about it not out of any intentional decision to stop talking about it. It just became more interesting to make videos about other types. I found that I most naturally sort of used my own type as an analogy, you know, like, okay, well, so it's like this for them because it's like this same relationship for me, except for these two different functions. How that actually plays out, yada yada yada. So it became SI knowledge base for ideation rather than an example of ideation out of some previous SI knowledge that I had, which was not framed thusly, you know. So coming back to this topic of ENTP personality type, what it means, and the cognitive function stack is something that I plan to address more thoroughly in a video with documentation associated with it. But for now, I want to talk about one specific aspect, namely the contrary relationship between various manifestations of the ENTP self and the need to find a working balance or some working relationship between those competing elements. So first, let me just say that I'm of the mindset that says if you're an ENTP, you are not very successful at being yourself unless you're on Adderall or some other kind of amphetamine. The reason for this is SI, basically. My experience has been thus that when I'm not doing any kind of amphetamines, I'm quite useless in self-determining endeavors. So it doesn't mean I'm a bad employee or something. I can go to work, make money, yada yada, and I can do a good job at work. But I'll always think, while I'm doing a good job at work, that I'm actually not doing a good job because I'm not achieving anywhere close to my potential. That really oughtn't be how one evaluates one's own performance in a workplace environment, because you should evaluate yourself against the alternative. Other employees doing your job, you know, possible other hires that might get hired to do your job, that kind of stuff. You know, compete against the actual alternatives, not against some ideal in your workplace, if you're basically there to make money and not because it's some personal passion of yours. Now, I could be successful in that capacity without amphetamines, but what I couldn't really be successful at least not remotely as successful at, without amphetamines, is any kind of creative endeavor or creation of self by immediate objects, like I'm doing with talking with famous people, music. Occasionally I'll write a little thing or two with I guess looks like there's this darkness on the back of it. Okay, Darkness. He's a white guy. When I hear that, I think of Dave Chappelle using the term. Anyway, so I think it's for people who are ENTPs. There's something naturally creative about them. That doesn't necessarily mean they're playing music and drawing pictures and painting and making videos and stuff, but it means that they are active ideationally all the time, more or less. And that's a creative process in and of itself, even though it doesn't necessarily convert to media objects. I mean, my position on it is we ought to do our best to convert our working energies to media objects, because it's how we actualize, is by presenting to others these instances of self that, woven together, tell a larger story of self and compare the body of work that gives us more direct understanding of what matters to us. Because with the 7th slot function of FI, that's an area of concern. We don't naturally have the process that people use to understand their own authenticity available to us as a effective function. We experience feelings like anybody else. My wife basically Kimberly says that I just have one feeling, I just push it around. I only have one feeling, I just push it around. But regardless, the point being that it's not something that I understand how one uses. It's not that I don't experience it. It's that I don't attend to things via that kind of attentional manner, that calculus. And that particular attentional manner is a judgment function, inverted judgment function, so it's definitely a calculus. It's the interested calculus. Will I be able to get flowers? It depends on whether the stoplight turns red. I want to get flowers for Kimberly if it does turn red soon enough. But I probably oughtn't wait for it to turn red. There's people behind me will be mad. Well, you know what? Yo! Hey. $10. $5. $10. $10. Okay. You got change? What? Yeah, yeah. Okay, now the light's red. Okay.
Okay, 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, so I got Kimberly some flowers. That's good. To replace the other flowers I got last time. I usually buy flowers here if I got cash. From these people who stand here and sell flowers. Anyway, so we've got to be attentive to what it is we want to have outside of us, representative of ourselves. And in my opinion, ENTPs, real ENTPs, they won't be fulfilled in their self until they really start creating objects of some sort. It could be physical objects, but and I certainly have some of those that I see as fitting into the overarching package of my SI, my external SI. But by and large, most of the objects I make are not physical objects, they're metaphysical objects. They're things like songs, videos like this, pieces of writing, whatever. So I see it as that's one of the core vectors of ENTP actualization or optimization, is the process of figuring out that, you know, the creative aspect, learning to create effectively. And I'm of the mindset that ENTPs are going to have a really hard time doing that without Adderall, although if you get in the right sort of external discipline situation, it's certainly possible. Most of us don't have external discipline situations that encourage, reinforce, or otherwise make happen for us, or do the SE for us of creative endeavors. Most of us, we have to do it as a hobby, so to speak, or an avocation rather than a vocation, which is okay. I mean, it's like I don't view avocational creation as less than vocational creation inherently. I view the objects as aesthetically determinate in and of themselves. So regardless of that distinction, assuming you're not able to get that sort of vocational external TE structure, or whatever you want to call it, or SE compellingness that would happen if it were a job, that means you've got to figure out a way to both do it and still make money and have some other time, right? So, I don't work a whole shit ton of hours at my job. I'm working more than I used to. So I've been kind of like had this sabbatical year almost of a little amount of work, job work. But that's coming to an end as these programs I'm building, these places are growing. So that's going to be more and more hours taken up with doing debate coaching. So that's another vector. Of course, you have to deal with paying for yourself in life. And then the third one I'm discovering can be challenging is understanding that attainment is not just metaphysical at all. That there's another critical component, which is you have to have the physical aspect of life become meaningful to you. And that means, yes, SI means taking care of yourself, self-care, feeding, staying in the right temperature, all that kind of stuff, going to bed at a reasonable hour. But it also means understanding particularism and relationships. So Kimberly and I came to a head last night, or this morning really, in an NI versus SI battle. Kimberly's 8-slot NI shows up when she understands time passing by way of her experience of time passing. So things that happen maybe over the course of a couple of days are hugely significant or outsized in their actual significance versus a slightly bigger picture view. If you don't really think beyond a day or so in either direction much, then you're not using a lot of NI, because introverted intuition says, what's the universal meaning of things, not the particular meaning. The particular meaning of things is, well, I know I'm uncomfortable right now, but that doesn't mean that I hate this place. It just means, or this place is terrible, or this place always makes me uncomfortable. It could be particularist to the now, and so the universalist discounts that particularist experience as necessarily informative. So Caroline had this kind of fight with the fact that there was 3 nights, over the course of 3 nights, I stayed up all night one night when Mark came. I was very occupied that day, and then when he got there, we stayed up all night. And I, went to the beach with Mark, and we did a couple of random little things, and then he had to go. But he was only here for a little while, so that's why. And then the next day, I was very occupied during the day, which Kimberly doesn't like. She wants me to be. She wants it to be how she wants it to be. There's no rule exactly to it. It's like she wants me to be there and present with her and sharing some common point of interest until she wants to do something she wants to do that she doesn't want me involved in, and then she wants to do that, you know. So it's I guess you could say it's unfair in some regard, because she's just basically saying, but I want it how I want it all the time, and that's it, and too bad. You know, but it's fine because I get it. You know, when I'm separated from her, as I become separated from her on amphetamines, if I get tracked out enough, I'm working full blast on something. I mean, that's the impact of the drug, and the logical necessity of that being the impact of the drug is that I'm not attending to people. I'm attending to completing processes. I'm doing SE shit, basically. I'm SEing. I'm doing the making part of the ideation. I'm doing the heavy lifting. The stuff that I just really can't do at nearly as effective a level without my ADHD medication. So, you know, she doesn't like it though, because she's experiencing it purely as me in a different spiritual space than the same one she's occupying. I'm fully attending to what I'm doing, not to her or even to myself, but just to what I'm doing. So she doesn't necessarily like that. She finds that well, it makes her mad, basically. It makes her mad. So, and the other thing is, I have a bad habit of telling her shit like, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes, and then not coming in 5 minutes, coming in 30 minutes. Or sometimes, like last night, man, okay, well, I'll come to bed in a little while, and I just stayed up all night. So I knew when she came out in the morning that she was going to be mad at me. Now, I did a pretty good job of spiking that, or setting it up so that I wasn't going to be held too much to account by making this love song during the time that I was not in bed with her. Keep in mind, she gets upset when I'm not with her when she's awake during the day, and we're not attending to the same sort of things. But she also gets upset with me when I'm not sleeping next to her at night. And she wants me to achieve at a high level. And she wants me to convert everything I do to money. Which is not, I mean, and directly. Like, she doesn't value things that don't convert directly to money. So, the challenge for me then is to know and understand and implement in my life the vision that says this relationship with Kimberly is more important, obviously the big picture thing, but most importantly it's half of your being. The physical, the emotional relationship I have with Kimberly, the attachment I feel towards her, the warmth I feel towards her, and the just general delight I take in being in her company when I am attending to her and we're doing some sort of shared activity, or having sex or something is super nice nowadays. It's hard to get her into bed a little bit, but I mean, not hard, but you know, it's like it's not. I gotta try a few times before I succeed, at least. Like, she'll rebuff me frequently. Regardless, I still manage to have sex every couple days, and it's very nice. It's amazing how much of an impact it has on my mood. Not something I ever thought about in my last marriage, or it was just, you know, I've always been so detached from my physical self, not just my body, but that realm of stuff that doesn't really mean anything, stuff that's not made out of words. It's not my natural ecosystem, and I think in general that's the challenge ENTPs have, is we are very metaphysical. The only ones who are really more metaphysical than us are INFJs. And there's, in some ways, we're the same, like, score, so to speak, of metaphysicalness, but they're a little bit more metaphysical because their knowledge function comes first, and it's a metaphysical knowledge function, and our knowledge function is physical. So at the end of the day, we root back down to going, yeah, but I got my experience to rely on. And they don't. They say, yeah, but eventually if I get too swaddled within my introverted intuitive world, then I go out and do something. Rub a tree or whatever. I don't know. Let me go rub a tree. That way I'll know what it means to be alive. I can feel the barky roughness on my hands. I'm an INFJ. Rubbing trees every day. Tree rubbing makes me feel gay. Gay for trees. Yeah. Anyway, INFJ song notwithstanding. So, when they say ENTPs are childlike, this is why we're perceived as childlike. There's a wistfulness that I feel towards a grounded life that other people I perceive as experiencing more than I am capable of. Kim's an obvious example. She knows the value of whatever it is she's experiencing right now. Sure, she's often pissy. Like, it's that 8-slot NI. It's like, okay, well, this small picture thing is bad, but big picture is not that big of a deal. But, she's just not, like when they've raised the rent $40 a month from, $15.20 to $15.65 or something like that a month. And she's all, wringing her hands and fretting because she just sees it as rent's a big expense. They raised the rent. That's a big expense. Well, okay, but they didn't double it, It's $40 a month. If we're gonna have a big financial problem, it's not gonna be that. It's like, yeah, I know little things add up, but why are you freaking out about that $40 a month when we just dropped $40 at dinner last night? So it's the failure to draw equivalencies of significance between things, because she knows her personal experience first and foremost in a way that I don't. I do reference my personal experience to provide me ideational launching points, but SI is very much in the service of NE in the ENTP, and that means that we're going to want to find more and more anchorings as we get older. I look at Not Host Mark and his terrible, terrible, terrible SI, and there was a moment where I thought, I wonder if he might be an ENTJ because that SI seems almost polar. But I've also, using my own SI reference point, I go, okay, but Eric, when you were that age, your SI was insanely shitty too. And it was. So, and I've also read in Socionics, and it makes sense, and it resonates with my experience as well, that, every type gets better or more attentive to, more effective at accomplishing what they need to accomplish with their 4th slot function as they get older. More aware of it, more more effectively able to convert small amounts of attention in that area to meaningful impacts. It doesn't take a lot to make a substantial impact with a little bit of SI. So when I took the gas station today, I got this iced tea. I've been dehydrated the last couple of days because I haven't been taking very good care of my SI because I've been too whacked out working on music and stuff. So that's the challenge. How do you balance being a creative individual who needs to create but is not really endowed by nature with sufficient SE to do so on his own as an avocational thing, and the concurrent reality that you probably don't have a vocation that enables you to be creative in the way that you ideally would like to, which is not just creating stuff that is useful or interesting, but stuff that's expressive of identity, because ultimately ENTP seeks, more than anything else, a clear sense of self or identity. That doesn't mean it's our absolute scorecard or anything, but it's what we seek somebody else to provide. Tell me who I am is the implicit command behind every ENTP's piece of media making. Who am I? Well, don't you know, Eric? You're the one who's making all the shit. Well, I've got some vague notions. But until I talk it all out and place it out into the world where it stands independent of me as a set of ideas, my understanding is somehow insufficiently realized in the physical world. It's just, that's the thing. I can be metaphysical. ENTPs in general can be metaphysical by default all the time and rarely notice things in the physical world. We just go around and think about whatever we're thinking about, and if we're, like in my head, when I talk in my head, I'm usually talking to an audience, a presumed audience of somebody, and I'm more than one person. It's like, well, we're gonna blah blah blah. First, let's go. Well, who's let's? Who's us? Who's we? Who am I talking to? But I don't know. I just see myself that way. It's like there's the me that's talking, and there's the me that's listening to me talking, and then there's the me that does stuff. Like, the me that's talking is telling the me that does stuff to do stuff, and the me that's listening is nodding, going, yeah, this is pretty smart. You're a smart guy there, Eric. We're pretty cooperative with each other. So, but when I do think those things in my head, I'm often imagining myself talking to not just my other selves within me, but to an external audience, like imagining myself making a video. I think about something when I'm walking around the streets, and I have some sort of insight that seems interesting enough to note. It doesn't have to be the discovery of pi, but some sort of insight that's worth sharing, in my opinion. Then I will sort of talk it out in my head as though I were talking to the video. Maybe I'll think of a sentence or two that I'll like the sound of it or whatever. When I was a little kid, I used to do the same thing. I'd pretend I was talking to an audience in my head. So I'd pretend I was being like interviewed by people and telling them answers about things. And they would be impressed with me. And I go, that feels good. I like that. Coming to terms with that FE affirmational need thing is also important. It's another vector that I have to save for another video. This is a 30-minute video already, so anyway, ENTPs, speed, creativity, relationships, self-care, prioritizations, and understanding that one needs not only to physicalize one's metaphysical objects to represent a metaphysical self, one needs to physicalize one's physical body in ways that are experiential, not representational, in ways that don't persist but are nevertheless significant. Doing the dishes won't solve the problem forever. That's true. The dishes will get dirty again. It's still worth doing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. If you'd like to chat with me, I do typings and other sort of life coachy stuff. I'd like to think I provide a fair amount of decent insight and entertainment value worth the $60. I'll direct all my attention to your life and aspects of you and try to provide you meaningful data or feedback regarding what I see, how your functions work, whatever you want to talk about, really. So that's a one-on-one session with me via video conference. If you want to buy that, you can go to the store, TwFP.com. I also have a book of tables. It's very exciting. It's called Exciting Tables and Words About Human Personality. It's a compilation of standalone documents and presentations of data that are about cognitive functions and stuff. So yeah, talk to you later.